got a fun one for you today. This is a relatively rare, made for 1 year only, I think limited edition actually, Gibson Flying V Crescent Moon. We've got the sort of 70s style scratch plate, tunematic and tailpiece. We've got some pickups that are apparently very good with high gain, although a little bit less fun at low gain, low fuzz sort of settings. And it's in faded cherry. It's a fairly good nick. Very well played, very lightweight for the size. Good old chunk of mahogany. And I'm going to do Luthier's teardown, take this thing apart. We are going to probably do some fretwork, although you don't need to see all of that. I'm sure we've had enough of quite so much fretwork on our screens. The whole thing is going to end up being pretty cool, and this guitar could be yours in the original soft case actually as well. It could be yours. Check out the link in the description below. We are creating the Dorset Guitar Museum, and that requires funds, and part of the profits from this guitar are going to buy guitars for the collection. Let's take this beastie apart and see what we got. So immediately you can see the the pickups are at a sort of weird height. Obviously this is not factory fresh. I like how the neck break angle has been planed into the top of the body here, and you'll have just do you have a little bit of a curve in that scratch plate? I'm not so sure. 2 volumes and a tone, 3-way toggle, lots of crud built up around the switch, but for a guitar made in 2003, it's in pretty good condition. I love the matte finishes that we've got. It does bear up well over time. Your Gibson logo on the truss rod cover in good nick. A little bit of the ink, the transfer is coming off, but that's we've seen worse. Yeah, the nut is quite cool. I like how you've got a very sharp point at the front of the nut. That yeah, it's attractive. It's fairly well done. Now, inlays. Crescent Moon inlays. I'm not surprised they didn't do this for very long. It was in production for just 1 year. They are not everybody's cup of tea, and I think it's not that the inlays themselves are not attractive. So we don't have anything down here, and that feels wrong. I do understand what they were thinking, but not a huge fan. Okay, so obviously very well played. Lots of crap on the fretboard there. We'll get all of that out. Let's have a look at the serial number. So we've got 2003. Your date is the 0 and the 3, the 1st and the 5th, and it comes out at March 2nd of March 2003. Made in US. We've obviously got Gibson Deluxe tuners. Not so sure about this green color against the faded cherry. Not too much of a fan, but that's fine. No volute, of course. No headstock brakes. You can see the difference between the back of the headstock and the playing surface, just how shiny it is. So yeah, that's quite cool. Same thing on the body. You've got shiny areas and less shiny. So yeah, pretty good neck, pretty cool guitar. She could be yours. Check the link. And let's get these nasty strings off here, shall we? Yep, that's the original tailpiece. And bridge, we've got the little retaining spring under there. Yeah, so check out, you've got, that's long. The way the lacquer builds up over the inserts always strikes me as just a little bit, I don't know. This is what it is. When that's in there, it looks like you've got a wooden dowel insert and something's had to be moved or what have you. It just looks a little bit weird. Whereas having the clean metal underneath I don't know, is cleaner. It's not important in this case though. It would have been nice if the if the inserts, if the holes in the scratch plate actually lined up properly with the inserts. It makes the whole thing look like it's off kilter, doesn't it? See what I mean?
Sure.
It looks like it's all that way, a little bit too far. Actually, it might be. We've got the edge of our pickup there is basically 1 millimeter away from the edge of the scratch plate there, whereas on that it's 3 basically. That one there is weirder because we've got the tape all the way around. Yeah, it's a couple of millimeters.
There's also
and a couple of meters, so that's fairly centered. That's weird.
I think you can see the radius A, D. Maybe whoever's been playing this has just been muting up.
And here we go. Okay, so minimal shielding, Gibson branded pots, very cool switchcraft switch. Obviously we've got the long one here so that you've got so it's not as deep. I could do a little bit of cleaning, I suppose. It all looks original and cool. I do like the seriously chunky ground wire. We've got a solid wire. Obviously it's in some shielding there, but the ground wire itself is solid core and it's basically 1 millimeter thick solid core wire. That stuff is not breaking. It's pretty cool, really. Now we have minimal shielding paint in here. There's a little bit of shielding paint in the bottom of the cavity and nowhere else. It doesn't go up the sides, it doesn't go up the edges. It's a little bit problematic. It just looks like somebody got bored, slapped a little bit of shielding paint in the bottom and is done with it. I like the witness marks as well of where the scratch plate is and the slight difference in coloration and obviously the sheer amount of dirt we've got going on. So I'm going to add a little bit of crimson shielding paint. What's it called? Rear guard, protects your back cavity, something like that. I'm going to install some of that, blow some switch cleaner through the pots, etc. Now I'm looking at the back of this and thinking, what the hell's going on there? Hold on. We've got the original branded Gibson pickups, but the way that the pickup tape has been installed is just so slapdash. I suppose it is what it is. This guitar isn't a luxury guitar. It is built to a budget, and that's absolutely fine. And we've got number 1 written on the inside of the shielding there. Now, the interesting thing about this guitar is if it was made in March 2003, they discontinued these, I think, in July 2003, and so this makes it one of the last ones of this small run that was made. What's Josh filming in the background there? Ooh, that looks like a Strat. Hey man.
Strat.
Japanese Strat.
It's a Japanese Strat.
99.
What's the white called again? Not vintage, not polar.
Not polar.
It's a special one.
Not bright.
Olympic.
Olympic white. There we go.
White. Yeah. So it's a bit of a rare one.
It's cool. I was tempted to keep that one. I think actually that video is going live before this one is, so
it's going to be confusing.
Old life is what it is. I'm currently sitting here waiting for some glue to dry on something that I'm not going to show you, actually, come to think of that, which is why I started filming this. So there we go. And then on top of that we've got some quality control signatures in the rather large routes. That's cool. It's a fairly simple, fairly basic guitar that does some rather beautiful things. Alright, I'm just going to use some fretboard and finish cleaner. Get rid of some of this nastiness. Adding a little bit of shielding paint is going to make a difference. I mean, we're talking about a high gain guitar, aren't we, at this point? We want a little bit to go over to connect with the shielding foil on the inside of the scratch plate. thus creating a complete Faraday cage. Apart from the small gap up here, but I think that'll be fine. It didn't quite work. Look at the logo, yeah? And that was me with a paintbrush in my mouth. Come on. Okay. Yeah, that pot is loose. Let's sort that out. The others are fine. And some switch cleaner. Yeah, this stuff is very, very cool and necessary. Especially with a guitar that was as dusty looking internally as this was. Just clean the contacts off. Forget and panic a little bit that you've taken the control knob off, of course. Where's life without a little fear every now and then? That being said, we can put this beastie back down. Need to do some cleaning, so I'm going to take the other knobs off as well. In a bit. Above the bottom. This fretboard is filthy. Now, oftentimes people would use lemon oil or something like that. Fretboard finish cleaner, fretboard and finish cleaner, that would do the job as well. In this case, I'm going straight in with a medium fret rubber. Sometimes an abrasive is exactly what you need. We don't use lemon oil here. It is predominantly a petroleum byproduct. A lot of it evaporates into the air. A lot of it ends up in your skin and lungs and nastiness, and it actually ends up drying the fretboard out rather than reinvigorating it and adding moisture. It's really a nasty product, and you'll find that most people who do a lot of repairs and restorations and cleaning up of old fretboards will have other products or tricks that they use. Now in this case I'm using the rubber, getting in the corners, getting all the crap off. I will go to a from the medium to the fine. Even with the medium, the result here is nice and clean. And then after that, once we've done a level crown and polish, I will use the fretboard restorative to feed this very dry ebony. Now my fret rubbers are getting a little bit old, so my corners are a little bit worn away, which isn't the end of the world. With the fretboard cleaned, our nut is 43 exactly, our 12th 52.4, and we're talking millimeters here, 21.9 millimeters, only 21.9 millimeters thick at the 12th fret, and at the 1st fret It's 20.4. So this is actually a very slim neck, I tell you. Yeah, 20 to 22 basically. Doesn't, I suppose it does feel. So with the Fano I did the other week, that was 22, I think, all the way up to 26. Whereas a 2mm jump in thickness is more common. Anyway, I'm going to prepare this for fretwork, and we'll get a shimmy on, shall we? My glue is about 15 minutes off dry, so I think I'm going to pass this on to Josh. Maybe, we'll see. Yeah, 12-inch radius, as expected. All good. Big truss rod cover. Also, when you're doing this, don't forget to check that the tuners are all nice and tight. That's something that often goes. There you go. They're all they're all loose. It's something that often goes, and the washer ends up causing buzz.
Okay.
I think that'll do.